In the world of academia, crimes against e-cigs are considered especially heinous. That requires a special breed of investigator, the Special Vaping Unit. These are their stories. Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to VTTV here on Thursday, the 12th of May. Hooray, hooray! Because Outdoor Nookie starts today. There you go, Sav, you happy now?
I am, yes.
Good. That's all right then. That's all right. I'm here by myself tonight because Keith, bless his little cotton socks, picked up a bug on the aeroplane on the way home because the air scrubbers, apparently, according to him, are not working as well as they used to when everybody smoked. Since the smoking banned, the air scrubbers just don't work as well because they turned them down. So he and his wife are both lying in bed waiting for the doctor to come and rub their chests with Vic. But apparently Vic's tied up at the moment because he's a pervert. That's just the way it is. The show tonight is going to overrun, let me say that from the very, very start, because I've got lined up 2.25 hours of video already, and that's before we get to the other stuff. So it's not going to run 3 hours, but it is going to overrun because something's going to have to get dropped. That's just the way it is. That's the way these things happen. I'll talk to that camera there because it makes me look tanned. Yes. So if you are new to vaportrails.tv, can I bid you a very, very fond welcome and say thank you for coming along. And very, very shortly, I shall be keeping a promise I made over the weekend. But first, I need to introduce my cohort, my colleagues, my friends for the night. So I shall go to camera 5. There it is. And there it is. And there she is with a brand new backdrop that apparently came free with the house. Hello, Sav.
Hello.
No, sorry, wait. And here she is. The bountiful, beautilicious. Oh, go on. Hello, Sav.
Hello, Dave.
How are you diddling, cock? How was the move?
I'm alright. I'm knackered and I may fall asleep.
How much gin have you drunk since you got in the house?
I couldn't possibly see.
How much e-liquid have you got through since you did the move?
Oh, stupid amount. Stupid amount. But I was feeding it to the removal men as well, so.
Yes, apparently there were viewers.
Yes, one of the lovely removal men was a vapor and a viewer, so hello. And thank you, you did all the good stuff. Yay.
Yes, there's no better than having strong men to lift things for you, is there?
Oh, it's brilliant.
Next on the list, all the way from Barnsley, cough. There you go, all the way from Barnsley, we've got the man himself. Now, look, I'm going to tell you something, you lot, while you're looking at that picture of Marco. The man makes amazing pulled pork wraps, cheese sandwiches, ham sandwiches. He knows where to buy good pork pies. He was catering over the weekend, weren't you, Marco? How are you diddling, cock? All right.
I'm all right, Dave. I'm all right. Yes, I provided the food for the team for the weekend at Vapor Expo.
He did?
Yes, you all enjoyed the pulled pork, didn't you? Apart from Dave Kay, he didn't have any, did he? Because he didn't like the salad.
Had rabbit food in, but that's fine.
Yeah, I had to put a little bit of salad in. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
but yes, they were rather tasty, weren't they?
Yes, absolutely right. Yeah. I was going to say something. I know what I was going to say. Not a lot of people know this, but Marco's been on a diet. He's been losing some weight, and he was really, really worried he was going to have put some on over the weekend because, my God, we ate and supped a lot, but you didn't, did you? You lost some, didn't you?
I lost some this week. Yeah, no, I was. I thought I'd put on this week because we did imbibe a little bit of the old ale.
A little bit.
And the food was rather plentiful, wasn't it? We had some nice mixed grills and steaks and stuff.
Steaks.
Yes, but I still managed to lose a pound.
Steaks, yes. The only thing missing from the steak was the blood. Never mind. Matt is also with me tonight, aren't you, Matt? Are you there, Matt?
Hello.
Speak, Matt.
I'm here.
There he is. Look, as per usual, he's got the Rice Krispie juice on the go, and you cannot see anything behind him.
I've got so much juice to get through. I've just got to vape it all at once. Hence the fog.
Shocking, so it is.
Yeah,
Disgustipating. Right, shall we get on with it?
that's right, sir.
Let's get on with it. So that's your team. That's your team for tonight. We're all here. Questions. You know, we've got the premier chat watcher in the world. That would be Sav. Nobody does it better. Nobody. I don't know how she does it. Must be the new glasses. That's what it is. It'll give them the checkout anyway, won't it, kidder?
Why not?
So there we go. Right now, what I did say, I need to ask a question of chat first. There's been a few videos posted of the nonsense that I spouted on Saturday. If you would like to see our cut of it, which has me a little bit bigger on screen, then please, what did he do on that other channel? Just put 1 in chat. Put 1 if you'd like to see it. If you don't want to see it, don't put 1. We've also got all of the footage from the Lords, which I intend to play at the end of the show, so it'll, you know, later on. So that'll go on for 1 hour and 13 minutes and 19 seconds. And I cannot not play it because it's absolutely bloody amazing. It's spot on. But I did promise that tonight we would go. Oh, there's ones coming in already.
There's 1 1, 2 1,
Yeah.
3 1s.
I need to lower my volume a little bit, do I? Who said that?
Right, Rave Tech, you only get 1 1. You don't get 2 1s.
Leanne,
Twos, not 2 2s. Or 1. Not 2 1s.
It's not 2 1s.
what?
99 Miles Dolphin he's got his keyboard arse backwards.
They're confusing the hell out of me. This lot, they really are. Right, look, let's do what I said I was going to do, because what I said I was going to do was to get into TPD. So let's do exactly that. Let's get where we were going to go, and this is the official guidance, right? This is everything you need to know. This is where it's coming from. It's at the Gov UK, at the MHRA site. It's linked to from the front. You don't even need a link. And it's the preliminary guidance on how to get an e-cigarette on the market in the UK, including the notification scheme and reporting problems with e-cigarettes. Let me, before we go any further, say there's no such thing as a problem with an e-cigarette. There might be problems with batteries. There might even be problems with juice, but there's never a problem with an e-cigarette. Right. Now, what do we need to know? What's it all supposed to be about? It's supposed to be about minimum standards for safety and quality of all e-cigarettes and refill containers, otherwise known as e-liquids. They've had to put that in so that everybody understands. This applies to all e-liquids. It doesn't matter whether it's in 10ml. Well, that's the maximum it can be in. It doesn't matter whether it's meant to be mixed, whether it's pre-mixed. It doesn't matter what it is. Every nicotine-containing e-liquid, that's what this is about. And this information, it says, will be provided to consumers so they can make informed choices. Well, that's what I'm doing now. And it apparently promotes an environment that protects children from starting to use these products. Now, the Tobacco and Related Products Regulations 2016 were laid before Parliament on the 22nd of April 2016. The Lords are aware of this, and they had something to say about it, which we will see later. The idea is to implement the TPD in the UK and come into force on the 20th of May 2016. That is 9 days away. It's not very far away at all. And Part 6 of the regulations set out the requirements for e-cigs and refill containers. Now let's run through exactly how this works. Let's start with putting a new product and products that are already on the market. That's where we need to go from. So let's go from there. Now then, as far as retailers are concerned, if the manufacturer has submitted a UK notification for the specific product that you import, then you do not need to submit a duplicate notification. What does that mean? What it means is, quite simply, if, and I'm just picking on one at random, if Kanga has already notified a Pro Tank of whatever size, shape, colour, creed, whatever, if Kanga has already notified its Pro Tank, you don't need to, even though you're importing it from China, bringing it in yourself as a vendor or as a producer. If Kanga's done it, you don't need to. There needs to be one notification per product. That's it. What they don't want, what the MHRA is not looking for, is 737 notifications for the same product. They just want one. And that, in theory, should come from, if it's an Aspire product, it should come from Aspire. If it's Kanga, it should come from Kanga. If it's Joytech, it should come from Joytech, or their representatives in the UK. If it's Wismec, it should come from Wismec. Give me some more names, people. You know what I mean? If it's Sigelli, it should come from Sigelli, and so on and so on.
Inikin, that sort of thing.
Yeah, all of that. Inikin, all of that. So whoever the representative is in the UK should do the notification for the major manufacturers, and then you as a producer, even if you're bringing it in from China yourself, should not need to do that. They want one notification per product, and it's fairly obvious why. Otherwise, they're going to get, 1,000 notifications per product. It's all the same one. They're never going to be able to get through it. So that's where they are there. Retailers do not need to submit information for any products they sell unless they also qualify as a producer. Retailers have until 20th of May 2017 to sell through stock of products that do not comply with the labelling and product composition requirements of the TPD. What does that mean? That means, right, that at the moment, that tank is non-compliant, right? It's over 2 millilitres for a start off. Everything else is okay, but it's over 2 millilitres, so it's not compliant. But it was on the market on Saturday, because it was on the market on Friday, actually, because that was when I got mine, on Saturday and Sunday. So it was on the market before the 20th of May. It is now good until the 20th of May 2017. As of the 20th of May 2017, in that form, it has to come off the market. But that's a year down the road. And I don't know of any product that's lasted a year without being changed. And I will ask my cohorts here, can anybody else think of anything that's lasted a year without being changed? Matt, can you?
I honestly can't think of anything I've used solidly for a year and not got fed up with it and moved on to something else.
But
if I'm being honest.
I'm just trying to think of something that's still around in its original format. Sav, can you think of anything?
Nah. You start off, and I remember having this conversation where something new comes out and you go, oh, I'll wait for version 2, it'll be out in a couple of weeks. So, nah.
Marco?
Yeah, it's the same. You'll get the first, it's like getting software like Windows. You'll get the beta version, and then they'll line out all the bugs, and then you'll get the next version. And it's the same with the tanks. They come out, they find something that's maybe not quite right, so then they update it. Look what happened with, say, the sub tanks with the insulation that melted, so they had to redo that. So, yeah.
So basically, there's now that lasts a year. Right, I've turned my audio down. Is that all right, Sav?
Yeah, that should come through right now. I was just clipping just a little bit.
Okay, I do apologise. I'm sorry about that. I like to be... I keep forgetting when I get into the show, I get excited and talk louder. And if I talk quiet, it just comes across straight.
About the only thing I can think of, Dave, in regards to the question, are things like the CE4s, which are still around in some form or another.
Yeah, CE4s, you're right, Matt.
Well, kind of, because they started off really as the CE1 and developed into the CE4, didn't they?
Yeah. But the only change that's really happened is there used to be the little sort of spidery cores at the top, didn't they?
Yeah.
And now they've moved into more of a sort of solid core unit. That's about the only change.
Because, some people are saying Nautilus, but they changed as well, because they changed, you got the version that took the BVC coils, whereas originally they didn't do that.
Well, they have changed. I don't know if Dave wants to put this on camera, but that's a Nautilus X.
You are full screen, mate. That's the Nautilus X that we managed to get these. They actually go on sale mid-May in another week or two. We got these over the weekend, and they don't look bad, but we need to have a little play and tell everybody about them. They are ostensibly TPD compliant and have been designed so to do. But we were talking about extension tanks. Oops, were we not? Extension bits and extension bits of glass, like the Fat Boy. Yeah. And if they're available, they don't even need to be notified because they're not. This is very different from what's going on in the States. So a piece of glass tube is a piece of glass tube, and it doesn't matter what the shape is. It's not ostensibly an e-cig, so it doesn't need to be notified. And a piece of steel tube with a thread with a thread at either end. Neither is that. You put the two together and you've got an extension that'll take a 2 millilitre Nautilus X and turn it into a 5 millilitre Nautilus X. We like that, don't we, Matt?
We do.
Yes.
I should have a look at that a bit closer at some point. But
yes,
yeah,
we'll be coming up with that. So right, let's blast on with where we were. So retailers do not need to submit information for any products they sell unless they also qualify as a producer. That means they make stuff. And the stuff a retailer is most likely to make is juice, is e-liquid, and we'll come to that. But you've got until 20th of May 2017 to sell through stock of products that do not comply with the labelling and product composition requirements of the TPD. So what it basically means is what you can buy today, you're going to be able to buy in a year's time and a week's time, and then you won't. It'll all then have to be compliant. Right. When the MHRA is satisfied that a product notification is complete and complies with the TPD, they're going to publish all the non-confidential information. Producers will be able to specify information that they consider to be confidential when they submit a notification. Is that volume all right, Sav? Because it looks a bit quiet here.
Turn it up just a tad.
I'm doing that even as we speak. It's gone up just a tad. That looks better. I can live with that. Right. So, the TPD does not cover nicotine-containing products that are authorised as medicines, of which there are precisely 0 on the market. One has been authorised, but it's not there yet. So who cares? Back to it. Right. Now, putting a new product into the UK market, this is important. From the 20th of May, 9 days' time, 2016 onwards, producers of new e-cigarettes and e-liquids will need to submit a notification to the MHRA 6 months before they intend to put their product on the market. But there are transitional arrangements for the period between 20th of May to the 19th of November, and during that period, applications for new products which companies intend to put on the market must be made at least 1 day before they're sold for the first time. A product which has been substantially modified will count as a new product and must also follow this process. Further information regarding what qualifies as a substantial modification can be found on the guidance on submission type below. But stuff that's already on the market, so producers of all e-cigarettes and refill containers that are covered by the TPD and are on the market before 20th of May, will have until 20th of November to submit a notification to MHRA. After that date, producers may only sell batches of a product that does not comply with the TPD requirements if the batch was produced before the 20th of November 2016. Now, this, I will freely admit, has had me a little bit confused, and I've had to seek advice. And the way it looks is like this. If you are a producer and you have a non-TPD compliant product, that has got to be notified in order that it can be sold through until May the 20th, 2017. It's 150 quid. So this isn't onerous, just has to be notified. Because it's non-compliant, they can't expect testing because the testing cannot be compliant. Actually, I don't think they can really expect notification of non-compliant product. And I'm going to say the words Italian enforcement. And that'll come up later. But we heard this from the Lords. In fact, we heard it from Lord Pryor, who is he's a Minister for Health. And basically what he's saying is it's not going to be enforced anyway, so don't worry about it. That is where we're at, but you'll see that later on. And it's important that we remember that. So yeah, bottom line really is producers have got 9 days to get stuff on the market so they can just get on with it. If they want to do it after the 20th, then they're going to have to make some kind of notification. But frankly, I don't think anybody's going to give a toss. To be honest, I don't think the MHRA wants to know, because I don't think they're going to have time to look at it. That's just my opinion. It's not official on behalf of anybody. But that's where we're at. So advice for retailers. This is the important part. This is the bit that everybody needs to know about, because the manufacturers, the producers, that's a whole separate kind of thing. And we want to know where we are as consumers. So let's look at that. If you sell e-cigarettes and or e-liquids by retail to the general public, you need to be aware of the transition periods for implementation of the new rules. Between 20th of May and 19th of November, there's no change. You've got in stock, you can order the same stuff. It's not going to be a problem. Carry on as normal. It's fine. It's all good. No need to get worried. Just order what you want and sell it. That's precisely what it says here. There's no change. It's all good. We are so lucky we're not Austria, because Austria is in trouble. If I play that other video in, I shouldn't say it, should I, Matt?
No, if you're going to play the video in, it's done, so you might as well say it now.
Yeah, Austria's fucked. Germany, not a great deal better. Belgium, only slightly less. Donald ducked. Between 20th of November and 19th of May 2017, you may continue to sell products you already have in stock during this period. When sourcing new supplies of any e-cigarettes or e-liquid products, I love the way they've changed it there to get rid of this refill malarkey. Ask your supplier whether the product complies with the requirements of the TPD. If the answer is no, be aware that you may only sell the product until the 19th of May 2017. Now, that's a very, very important paragraph. The producers can only sell to retailers stuff that was made prior to November the 20th, 2016, but they can sell that through right the way up until the 19th of May 2017. So if you're a retailer and you suddenly get 20 lads coming in saying, can I have a tank and 1,420ml bottles of, dare I say, Rice Krispie treat liquid, dare I say that, Matt?
I would like 1,420ml bottles of that.
So would I. You can order that up for arrival on the 19th of May and sell them it, but if it arrives on the 20th, you can't. As long as it was produced before that 20th of November cut-off date. That's the thing. And if I'm to be honest, you can print out your light on a bottle, but never mind. Let's carry on. So retailers, on the 20th of May 2017, you will need to remove from sale any remaining stocks of products that do not comply with the TPD. I would be removing them, and this is by no means official. It just was something that occurred to me. I would be putting them in the van out the back, because they would need to be got rid of somehow. And I'd be getting rid of them to my mates. But that's just me. I could be wrong. From the 20th of May, when sourcing new supplies of any e-cigarette or e-liquid product, check the details of the notification for the product of being published on the MHRA website. A link will be made available here when the web page goes live. As in, it's not live yet, they haven't written it yet, they don't even know if they can make it work, but that's what's going to be there. If you cannot find the product on the MHRA website, ask your supplier to confirm that the product complies with the TPD and has been notified to MHRA. If a producer has not notified the product or it doesn't comply, they may not supply it to you. If you are also a producer, right, so as a retailer you don't need to notify, because that's not your job, that's the producer's job. A producer is anyone who manufactures or imports e-cigarette or e-liquid products, and anyone who rebrands them as their own. Again, let me run through that. Now, I've got a tank on the top of here that comes from an outfit called e-cigs, right? G-O-O-C-I-G. We'd never heard of them before. And yet we all got to try them. And actually, if you look at the weekend stuff, the stuff from the show, they're pretty good bits of kit, in all honesty, but we'd not seen them before. It may well be that, I don't know, mattanddaveecigs.co.uk, that's me and Matt. We might decide that we want to import these things from e-cigs, but we want to call them Matt and Dave Specials, right? Let's assume they're 2 millilitres for the time being. We want to call them Matt and Dave specials. So we get Goosig to brand these things up as Matt and Dave's, right? Matt and Dave's e-cigs. If we do that, that means that Matt and I are the producers of that piece of kit. And therefore it's down to me and Matt, well, Matt, to do the notification. Because I'm just born idle and I wouldn't do it, right? If you have something branded up for your business, it is your responsibility to do the notification. That's what makes you a producer. Now, as consumers, that doesn't bother us because we can't get wrong for using something that isn't compliant. This is after May next year. Remember, as of May the 20th, as consumers, we see no change at all in what happens with the e-cig suppliers. Things carry on as normal. And that's not because that's what they were going to do anyway. That's because there's been a lot of people working very hard behind the scenes to make that happen for you. I'm not saying who, you all know. Right, now, what about cross-border sales? And I'm sorry if people find this boring. One, you shouldn't. Two, I apologise, but we've got to go through this so everybody knows what the fact of the matter is. And I am quoting here directly from the MHRA with other information I've been given that isn't on the website. So I can kind of fill in the blanks a little bit, if you like. Before I go any further, Sav, have we got anything coming in from chat that we need to cover, or am I getting there?
Yeah, covering most of it. We're getting sort of a lot of comments about how ridiculous this is all sounding, and sort of going through point by point is just exposing how stupid it is.
I think the word you're looking for is shite.
Shite is exactly the word I'm looking for.
Yes. Yes, and apparently I'm looking at the wrong camera as well half the time, but you know. Well, I'm sorry. Listen, I'm actually reading. It's not like me. So we're handling it, yeah? Okay, let's get back to that then. Cross-border sales, and I know this is affecting regular viewers because we've got a lot of vendors that are regular viewers, and I know one at least that's going to lose 19% of his business to cross-border sales. The only silver lining in that is that people in other countries are going to lose their cross-border sales as well. So, you know, you'll kind of make it up with home sales, if you like. Right. From 20th of May 2016, you need to register your business if you supply e-cigarette products via cross-border distance sales, for example, online. Like, what do you mean, for example, online? That's how it happens. That applies to businesses established in the UK selling e-cigarettes and or e-liquids to consumers in another EEA state, which is the 28 member states plus Iceland. Iceland? We've got an Iceland in Washington. I never go there. Liechtenstein, which is almost unpronounceable if you don't know how to say it, and Norway, which is across the North Sea. And businesses established in the EEA or third country selling to UK consumers. Now here's the point. Here's the point. In a third country, that's countries like America, Bolivia, Australia, New Zealand, Brazil, Pakistan, Bengal, United Arab Emirates. They're all, that's that one. I'm sorry. Right, I'm looking at you now. These are all third countries. Good luck trying to get them to comply with EU law. They ain't gonna. It's not going to happen. My information is, and I asked the question outright to a very, very, very senior member of the Department of Health, a senior civil servant. I asked the question outright and said, will the importation of nicotine-containing e-liquids or e-cigs or e-cig parts be subject to a ban order? In other words, would they stop them at customs and send them back? I asked the question. And the answer that came back was, no. There is no intention to implement a ban order. So if you want to bring liquids in from wherever, you can. You will probably have to pay duty, depending on what's on the package, what declaration is made for the purposes of customs. And I'm not saying anything about hand cream, lubrication or machine oil. Dave Kitson knows what I mean. I'm not saying, stop smiling, Sav. In his case it was machine oil, in my case it was lubrication. I have no idea what that would be used for. Really. Yeah. So There is no ban order, so if you wish to order from abroad, you can. Although I would say, you know, support your local sheriff sort of style. I like to buy in the UK where I can. I like to buy from people based in the UK where I can, because that means, you know, the UK economy thrives, which is what I really want to see. However, right, the important part about this is that business to business sales do not need to be registered. So if it's not going direct to consumers, you don't need to register. What that means is a UK e-liquid operation can sell to a French e-liquid operation, or a French vendor, or a German vendor, or a Romanian vendor, or a Dutch vendor, or a Spanish vendor, or a Greek vendor, but not an Austrian vendor, because Austria's fucked. It's just, forget it. If you're in Austria, come to England. Ignore Nigel Farage, come to England. This is the place to be. I should have put that camera on when I did that. Right, Austrian vapors will love you. Just please, don't stay there, come to us. It's better here, it's nicer, it's nicer. So yes, a business to business sale doesn't need to be registered. Registration is a legal requirement under the TPD. Without confirmation of registration, businesses must not supply a relevant product to a consumer via a cross-border distance sale. So really what they're looking for to happen is that it's business to business across the borders, and let the French, Spanish, German, Dutch, Greek, whatever, vendors sell your product. You can wholesale where you like. It's retail that they're clamping down on as far as the UK is concerned. What's happening in other member states in terms of us as consumers wanting to buy from other member states, it's going to be the same. But in some instances, you're just not going to be able to get it because other member states are not as enlightened as the UK. It's a great shame. But on a scale of, how can I put this, Donald Duckness from 0, as in not Donald Ducked at all, up to 10, which is completely Donald Ducked, twice, once in the face, then there are some member states that are up at a 10, we're on a 1. And there's everything in between. And from the UK point of view, it's difficult to be able to do anything about that. Right. Do I need to go through all this notification malarkey, folks, or because that's really down for producers? But let me just say this again. I've asked these questions in a roundabout way of my contacts in various different places. If what we would know as a dripper or a tank was to come in bits, it isn't a tank, it isn't a dripper, it isn't an e-cig, it's a kit of parts that could be anything. Are you seeing where I'm going? It could be anything. It could be an extension to an already existing tank. It could be a replacement deck, like you would, you know, get a replacement head for an axe or a replacement hammer for an axe. If you bought a replacement head for an axe and a replacement handle for an axe, and you put the two together, what would you have?
That would be an axe.
It would be an axe, exactly right. But what you bought wasn't an axe. It was a replacement head for an axe, and it was a replacement handle. And together they don't make an axe until you put them together. When you buy them, they're separate things. And exactly the same thing is going to apply to product under the TPD. So if you sell something like the Joytech AIO, the all-in-one, it's all-in-one. You can't take the tank off that. So that's got to go through the full bifter. It's got to be fully notified, tested, messed about with, and all the rest of it. That's got to happen. But take a look at that, right? Drops. That's a battery unit. You all know what it is. It's a VTC, right? Joytech VTC. That, as it stands, is just a battery unit. It is not captured by the UK's implementation of the TPD. You can buy that at whatever, what does it do? 75 watts, 80 watts. It might be upgradable to 100 watts. Who gives a toss? It is what it is. You can just go and buy that. It doesn't need notification. That's by itself. That, as a tank, in that format there, but without the juicing, if it came like that, that would need notification. But if it came in bits, I think you'd get away with it. Bear in mind, Italian enforcement. Italian enforcement. That's important. I was told by a very high-ranking senior official at the Department of Health, do not expect any enforcement. That's what I was told. And that was confirmed in the Lords yesterday. Italian enforcement basically means, it's okay, we put it into law, but nobody gives a toss. That's pretty much what it means. Yeah, we'll pass the laws because that's what we've got to do, but sod it. Same as Greek. They don't give a monkeys. They don't care. They don't give a toss. It's in law, but nobody's bothered. Not going to do it. I do kind of want to get a more definitive statement on that, but I think we got pretty close to that yesterday in the Lords. However, and this is the important part, if it comes in our box and it looks like that in the box, it's all complete, the whole thing needs to be notified. There's a hint there. Buy them separate. Have them in different boxes.
Dave, Sean Fairbrother asked the question, does that affect spares like coils, etc.?
Yeah, it does. Right, now, this is interesting. This is very interesting. A coil unit, a pre-built coil unit, and have I got any handy? For the first time in my life, I have, yes, I have, there you go. Right, pre-built coil unit should be notified, because that's the bit, right? It is probably going to need notification. That said, if you forget, I don't suppose there'll be any bother, but the big manufacturers, the likes of your Innikens, your Kangas, your Joytex, your Aspires, all the big players, the names that everybody knows, they'd be silly not to put a notification in. It's not going to cost them that much. It's not going to take them that much time. They've got 6 months to get everything in place. That's at least 6 months, because all of this stuff's already on the market. So at the very worst, it's a modification, I think, to something that they've already got on the market. So yeah, that would be notified, but that's all that would need to be notified. And again, I'm kind of not too upset by that, because I really want to know that if it says it's SS316 on the packet, I want to know it's SS316. If it says it's Canthal, I want to know it's Canthal A1 or whatever it happens to be. And if it's nickel 200, I want to know it's nickel 200, and so on and so forth. So I don't have too much in the way of a problem with that, and I would like the producers to get that right. But it's not that onerous. Matt, you've got something to say.
Yeah, just to expand on that a bit, Dave. I presume, I'll ask you to tell me yes or no on this. I presume that would not cover replacement parts, for example, a tank or a deck or a chimney or a drip tip.
No, you're exactly right. It doesn't. Let's face it, and again, I'm hunting around for bits here. Why do I never think about these things and bring stuff in? Look, if you've got a piece of Pyrex tube that happens to fit a Cleto, that happens to fit a e-cig, that happens to fit whatever, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a Kanga, it doesn't matter where it comes from. If you've got a piece of Pyrex tube, it's a piece of Pyrex tube. It's just a piece of Pyrex tube. It's not an e-cig. It isn't. If you've got a piece of steel threaded tube that just happens to fit whatever, it's just a piece of threaded stainless steel tube. It's not an e-cig. You can't use it as an e-cig. Otherwise, and the MHRA and the Department of Health are very, very well aware of this, with this, if it can be used to use e-liquid, every bloody Morphy Richards would be putting notifications in for kettles.
John D is asking, how would it affect squonkers?
Squonkers?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for throwing the easy ones in early on, Sav.
You're welcome.
All right. A squonker is a box mod, which, is he talking about one? Well, it's got to be a dripper on the top. Yeah. Right. A dripper, if a dripper is supplied completely disassembled, with the deck separate, with the surround separate, with the airflow control separate, with the chuff cap separate, with the chuff cap adapter separate. It's a kit of bits. It's like going out and buying a Lego kit if you like, for the Death Star, the Millennium Falcon, or Han Solo's left hand. It just doesn't matter. It's a kit of bits. And what you make with the kit of bits is entirely up to you. It might say Millennium Falcon on the box, but you could end up building Princess Leia. You pervert. Right? And exactly the same applies with the dripper that's going to go on the top. Now, as we already said, because the battery unit is sold separately, look, you can screw anything you like. There's a thread. There are torches that screw into that thread. So you can have a 240 watt torch that happens to be turnable down to about 5 watts. There's all kinds of things. So the battery units, they know they're on a losser, so they're not just not bothered. Now, the fact that there's a bottle inside that can be any size. You could have a 30ml bottle in your squonker box as long as you filled it out of the 10ml bottles that we're going to have come May the 20th, 2017. It could be 120, it could be a bloody litre. Although, well, hell, you'd get a hell of a size battery on that, I suppose. If you had a litre bottle in a squonker, you could have a car battery alongside it. But you see what I'm saying? The battery end, the box, the mod itself, it's fine. What are they going to do? They can't do anything. They recognise that, so that's fine. If it happens to have a bottle inside that you can squonk up to a kit of bits that you've built into something that you can use to vape on yourself, that's fine too. So squonkers, all good. It's all good. Now, I've got to stress, this is just in the UK, right? I don't know anywhere else in Europe that's being as understanding and lax about I don't want lax, Italian, about what's going on. We're being very, very supportive of e-cigs in the UK. That wasn't just going to happen. That's happened because we've been busy over here. Vapers in the UK have been voluble and they've done a really good job, and congratulations on that to all of you. But that's where we are. Anything more, Sav?
There's a few people in chat that are getting upset. They get the feeling that we're sort of laying back and accepting the TPD now rather than fighting it.
That's not the case.
Right. No. Look, what I said I would do over the weekend, this is, I made a promise that I would cover the TPD and what it means for us. I need to reiterate what I said twice over the weekend. This is a global fight. The UK is being let off very, very lightly. But we have got brother and sister vapors, if you want to put it that way. There are vapors all over the world that are being oppressed. There is no other word for it. They are being oppressed. And I don't like that. And we've got to fight together. Don't, whatever you do, think that I'm here saying the TPD is okay. It's not. It is, to coin a phrase, shite. As I said earlier on, and I apologise for the language, there are people, vapors in Austria, they are fucked. They're completely fucked. And the same applies in other member states as well. Now, I'm more than happy to go to Brussels, knock on doors and kick 17 shades of shit out of whoever needs it kicked out of them in order to try and get it all reversed. And I know I can, well, I don't need to speak for Sav. She's here. Tell them, Sav.
No, it's definitely not a case of backing down. We will do whatever it is we can do and we have to do. Full stop. And the whole team, we all will. We always have, we always will.
We've gotten this far, we're not going to sort of roll over now, are we?
No.
Not a chance. I'll bring the sandwiches, Dave.
Good man. Look,
There's another question from chat, Dave, while I've got you here.
Go on,
Sean Fairbrother again. He's querying whether 0 milligram nicotine or 0 milligram e-liquid is covered.
nicotine-free e-liquid?
Yeah.
Not covered.
No.
It's exempt. There's no nicotine in it. They're not bothered by it. So to answer a question that was posed quite frequently over the weekend while we were at the show, yes, you could provide a 120ml bottle that had, does his sums very quickly, less than that of nicotine-free flavoured e-liquid in, and the required number of 10ml bottles of 19.6 milligram e-liquid that would be required to fill it up to give you whatever strength you wanted. There's no reason why that can't happen, and that is perfectly legal. It can only be, however, mixed once the money's gone in the till. That's the way that one works. I kind of want to get, look, the TPD, and this scared the living daylights out of a few of us when we realised, the TPD got a start in December 2011, wasn't it, Sav? Or 2012?
Oh,
December 2012 it was first announced.
2012.
Yeah, December 2012 it was first announced. And in January of 2013, we, as a network, as VTTV, decided that we would campaign on this. That was a decision that was taken. From that came the black balloons thing. Sav and I have been, jump up Sav, Sav and I have been backwards and forwards to Brussels like a fiddler's elbow, have we not?
we have indeed.
We've been up and down to London, to Parliament. In early 2013, we were sat in a meeting that we have been told we can't talk about because it was private, speaking to their noble lordships and various other people about e-cigs and about why the TPD was a humongous pile of festering and fetid dingo kidneys. We've fought like hell. The NNA has fought like hell. ECA has fought like hell. VTTV has fought like hell with a lot of help from its viewers. None of that would make any of us accept the TPD as being a good thing. All I'm saying is that the UK's got off lightly in comparison to an awful lot of other member states, and I want to fight it for them, and so that we in the UK don't have to worry anymore. Are you with me, Sav?
Completely and utterly.
What I said, should I play that in? What do you think? Right. Okay. I wasn't going to do this because I don't like featuring stuff I've done. But this is what I'm going to cut the Q&A out, right? This is what I said over the weekend. So it's only going to run for, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes if it's that.
Before you do that, Dave, I'd like to point out that it will be made available separately, including the Q&A after the show as well.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes. I should point out it will be available on our channel after the show. This is the VTTV cut of it. And I should also point out, I'm going to play the whole of the Lord's thing in. It runs for an hour and 13 minutes or whatever. So when we're finished with this little lot, that's what will be coming up. And again, we're going to overrun, but I cannot not play that in. It's so good. This was what I said on Saturday. Enjoy it.
Together.
Mr. David coming along with it. Keep it going, keep it going. Let me ask you a question real quick. How many people in this room are ex-smokers? Okay. How many people are vaping? How many people like your 30 ml bottles? How many people like your flavors? Real quick, how many people want to keep vaping the way it is? Okay, this man's going to tell you how to do it. So put your hands together real quick, UK, for Mr. Dimitri. Keep it going for Chris and Dylan. Over there. I'm also joined by another special guest. Matt from Suck My Mod is on the stage here. Round of applause, please. And of course, the one and only David Dorn from Vapor Trails TV, one of the biggest advocates here in the UK fighting for your right to vape. They're just as important as everybody else in this room. David's going to give you a little bit of the details of what's going to be implemented here in the next month. One thing that I want to tell you is that the TBD is a reality. It's here. We got to stop putting our heads in the sand thinking it's going to blow over. But the good thing is, look at this crowd. Look how many ex-smokers we have in Britain. Isn't that a fantastic thing? All of you are here. I'm here all the way from Chattanooga, Tennessee. You know why? Because I quit smoking. I would have never met you guys without vaping, so let's keep that going. I'm going to have David give you a little introduction on the TBD, then Matt's going to introduce himself, then we're going to do a little Q&A section. You can ask anything you want, even anything. Have some fun, okay? David Dorn, please.
RDC! We're all vapors. We're all ex-smokers.
Unfortunately, even after 5 years of hard work, talking to Brussels, talking to the Department of Health, talking to the MHRA and talking to all kinds of people, the TPD is happening. It happens on the 20th of May. But it's not all bad news. Have we got anybody here from Hungary? Hungary over there. You guys are going to suffer with the TPD in Hungary. We got anybody here from Austria? If you're from Austria, you're fucked. Anybody here from Romania? We got somebody from Romania. You're only slightly less fucked than Austria. Here in the UK, here's what's going to happen. As of the 1st of May, nothing. As of the 20th of May, same as the 1st of May. The only difference you will see is that there can be no television advertising for e-cigs, no radio advertising for e-cigs. There needs to be a test case with a non-nicotine containing e-cig. That will happen, and then we'll know where we go from there. But otherwise, as of the 20th of May, you can buy 30ml bottles. You can buy 120ml bottles. You can buy litre bottles. As of the 20th of May next year, you're fucked. And I'm sorry to put it that way, but you are. Now, the New Nicotine Alliance, have you all heard of the New Nicotine Alliance? We work for you, we work with you. I'm a trustee thereof, and it's my job, together with my colleagues, to talk to the Department of Health to try and make things easier for you. So here's what's being made easier. You will buy, as of the 17th of May next year, 2ml tanks. But you can buy 5ml extensions. And they won't need to be notified. That's good news, isn't it? Say, thank you, NNA. That's what I like to hear. There's all kinds of other things that are going to be happening, but there'll be no notification on mods. So you can have a 30-watt mod. You can have an 80-watt mod. And you can have a 240-watt mod. Say thank you, NNA. That's what we like to hear. Look, the bottom line on it is, between now and the 20th of May next year, you aren't going to see much of a difference. Come the 20th of May next year, it's 10ml. It's 18 milligram. But we're trying hard to change it. We need your help. This week, we've seen two major setbacks. The Totally Wicked Challenge went down the plug hole. We had a feeling it would. And then the FDA deeming regulations. I'm so sorry, Jimmy. I'm so sorry. FDA deeming regulations came out. So we've had two setbacks. But what that means is, we need to fight harder. We need to fight stronger. We need to fight louder. And we need to fight with more voices. Are you in? Yeah! Are you in? Yeah! Are you in? Yeah! Great. Now what I want you to do, all of you, log on to the NNA website. It's nnalliance.org. Sign up. We don't want your money. We want your voice. We want your passion. We want that kind of thing. We need you to talk to your MPs, to talk to your MEPs, to talk to all of your representatives and tell them, not in these words, but tell them, the TPD is shite! And we want shot of it as soon as possible. We're okay in the UK for the time being, but our colleagues and friends in the rest of Europe are, quite honestly, fucked. And we don't want them to be. Yeah, it is. It's actually the same as fact. I gotta translate for the American on my right-hand side. Are you all right with this, Dennis? Okay, man. And you're American too, ain't you, man?
Yeah, I'm just nodding my head.
All right. I'll do it in Geordie then. If we don't shout, if we don't act, if we don't help everybody around all 28 member states, we will all be. And do we want to be? No, we fucking don't. Am I right? Yeah. Are you in? Yeah. Here's Matt. Go there.
I don't know how I follow this guy. I need his energy.
Look, that was where I'm at. If anybody thinks out of that either I or anybody on VTTV or anybody at the NNA thinks that the TPD is good, no. And as Sarah has just said in our chat, that's Sarah Jakes Twiglet on Twitter. We've just done a 20-page document that we've submitted. The NNA has submitted to the Department of Health to tell them why the TPD is shite. We're fighting for it, and we want to see more sign-ups. I will say, Matt, you've been keeping an eye on this. I know we went into the weekend with less than 700 supporters on NNA, but where are we now, Matt?
We've reached over 1,000, well over 1,000, I believe.
Let me just have a quick check. I've got it here. I'll have a quick look. And we now have 1,474 people supporting us on the NNA website. I would like to see, I'll get this thing to work in a minute. There we go. I would like to see a 0 on the end of that. If you're already signed up, can you get all your friends to sign up to the NNA? The bigger the numbers that the NNA has when it goes into all of these meetings, and Sarah is in and out of the Department of Health, MHRA, and God knows where down in London because she's down there. Lorien, you know Lorien, he's always on the telly talking about stuff, and I'm going to be doing as many of the expos as I can if I'm invited to speak to try and get support for this. Look, we've got to get shot of the TPD. We've got to do everything we can, and we've got a lot of people behind us. We talk to as many people as we can to get their support, and I'm hoping you're going to be seeing a bit of that a little bit later on. For benefit of everybody that has an early night, it's probably going to be 11 o'clock by the time we finish this one tonight, because I'm going to play the whole of the Lords in. Leanna Lawless has said it should be over 1 million. Get out there, Lal. Get as many signatures as you can. Get everybody to nnalliance.org. nnalliance.org. Sign up if you haven't, or if you have already, get all of your friends to do it. They don't even have to be vapers, and I frankly don't give a toss where they're from. Get everybody signed up. Sav, is there anything else I need to carry on with?
No, I think you're good. I've just got a comment from Tony P that says joining the NNA is classed as free shit, so all vapers should be there.
I like that. I like that a lot. Look, I feel I've got to say this, right? There's an awful lot of information about the TPD that we can give to vendors, that we can give to producers. It's all there, and if you are a vendor or a producer, please take advantage of the trade associations that are out there. They're on the ball. You've got ECBA, you've got ACETA, you've got IBVTA, there may well be others. Get tuned in to whichever one of those you think is your favourite. Just get tuned in, get joined up, get the information, get it sorted. Because as consumers, and I speak as a consumer, I've got no skin in the race, I've got no dog in the race when it comes to selling stuff. We don't do any of that. I just want you to get it right so we can have product, and that gives me and my colleagues, both on VTTV and in the NNA, to do what we do behind the scenes. We don't blow our own trumpets, we can't. It's wrong to do that. But we are working. I mean, seriously, Sav will tell you, I haven't got time to fart, have I, Sav?
No. No, you have to book it by appointment these days.
It's ridiculous. You know they say never trust a fart? I don't get the chance. I'm flying about like a paper kite, and I'm happy to be doing that. I want to fight for this. My last breath will be exerted fighting for this if we haven't won before. That's exactly the way it is. I just want us to win as vapers, because we need to, because we ought to, because what we're doing is right. It's right at the very, very highest levels. Vaping is right, and anybody that's against it, and I'm gonna swear, is fucking wrong, is the bottom line. Marco, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm just looking at a comment here in chat. Where's it gone? There it is. Max says, I wonder if the Yorkshire Vape Meet will be promoting NNA, TPD fight, etc. Well, DD and myself will be at the Vape Collective on the bank holiday weekend, and we shall be doing what we can.
Absolutely right. I'm going to go down. I can't get down there on the Saturday, unfortunately. I've got prior commitments. I'm going down on the Sunday, come hell or high water. I'd like to go down on me Spider, just purely and simply so people can see the number plate. And if you don't know what my number plate is, if you don't think I'm committed to e-cigs, it's e-cig lad. EC16 LAD. Rewind. E-cig lad. That's the number plate on my motorbike. So I am 100% committed. I've even spent money to show it. There you are. That's how committed I are. Right. Sav.
Yes.
What else do I need to cover?
I think you're on track. I think you're good.
Right. It's now 9:30 o'clock. I think it's time to bring Matt Ridley on board, don't you? Mm-hmm. I'm going to say it, right, look, I could go through all of the rest of this stuff from the MHRA. It's all there for everybody to read. I will say this before I go much further, and I know Matt's been looking at this as well. So Matt, join me.
Hello.
We were looking at a new box mod from BAT, from the Vape crowd earlier on today. Were we not?
We were.
And we looked at the tank, and it's got, I think this is so funny, it's got a level marker on it for 2 mils. It's a top fill thing that goes, it's quite a looking thing, side by side job, 2000 milliamp hours. And I'm by no means promoting this. This is just a comment on it. So if I remember correctly, Matt, it's got a little 2 mil do not fill beyond this point, doesn't it?
Yeah, which is not near the top, really, is it?
No. In fact, you can get another 2 mils into it. These guys know their way around things. Mm-hmm. They know this Italian enforcement is going to happen, as in, get on with it, right? I reckon you can fill this thing from the bottom and get 4 mils in. They'll get the notification in. I can't see the MHRA stopping it. That's just the way it is. And we were looking at this and giggling, weren't we?
We were.
It's
quite funny, to be honest with you.
These guys don't normally sail that close to the wind when it comes to e-cigs. Now, I've got no idea what their motivation is, and frankly, I don't care. They're getting product that's notified out there on the market, and they're doing it in such a way that you can actually get way more than 2 mils in it. You've just got to look at it to see that. And if you listen to what goes on in the next hour and a quarter, you will hear time after time the Lords supporting e-cigs, not just at 100%, it's more than that. It's really, really supportive. If you haven't already, if you've already seen it, it's worth a watch again. I've watched it dozens of times now because I couldn't get my hat on when I was sitting listening to it, even though I know how it happened, right? And let me say, there are a lot of people working very hard behind the scenes that are not looking for thanks. They just want supporting. And that's what this is all about. Now, I scraped this live, so if there's any glitches and jumps, I do apologise, but man, it's fabulous. This is the Viscount Matthew, Lord Ridley, Viscount Ridley, ably supported by Lord Callanan of Larfell, Martin Callanan, who was the very first MEP to show support for e-cigs and who Sav and I hit like a rocket as soon as we could, didn't we, Sav?
We did indeed.
He was one of the ones that when we went to Brussels, he was first in the queue to talk to us, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was straight out there.
Yes, I was working quite closely with his researchers alongside one or two other people as well. Just, if you haven't seen it, you're going to love this. Get some tissues, you'll need them. And not because you're crying. If you have already seen it, it is really worth another look. This is Matt Ridley kicking the whole thing off in the Lords and basically sticking a size 13 cowboy boot up the arse of our government.
Sir, I would first like to apologise for springing this debate on my noble friend the Minister in particular at such short notice right at the end of a session. But he will appreciate why this is an urgent matter. In 10 days' time, the EU Tobacco Products Directive may become law through a negative statutory instrument recently laid before this House. I'd like to emphasise right at the start that I have no problem with most of the directive. It's just the part relating to e-cigarettes and vaping, parts 6 and 7 essentially, and my motion is a little bit vague on that. The original draft was a little more specific. As noble lords will know, it's long been my view that this directive scores an own goal by bringing in measures that would discourage the take-up of vaping and thereby drive people back to cigarettes or to prevent them quitting. But it's not just me that takes this view. Increasingly, it is the view of Public Health England and of the Royal College of Physicians, whose recent report on this topic is, I think, a game changer in this debate. So I'm here at the 11th hour to help my noble friend prevent a historic mistake being made, or at least to raise the issue. In passing, let me note that I have nothing to declare. I own no shares and take no income from anything relating to vaping or smoking. The horrific death toll from smoking, 100,000 of our citizens die every year, has touched many of the lives in this room, I suspect. It's the biggest cause of preventable death on a scale that is hard to comprehend. It's a Hillsborough every 8 hours. It's a scourge that deserves the very best of technical ingenuity and policy-making skills to solve. Vaping offers, as the Royal College of Physicians said, a great opportunity to apply to smoking the principle of harm reduction, an idea that was pioneered in this country. When people behave in harmful ways, how do you stop them? You can punish them in the hope of deterrence, as we do with murder and fraud. You can hector them, as we do with alcohol and sugar. Or you can try to offer safer alternatives, which is how we tackled HIV infection and heroin addiction in this country in particular, and is how we should, I believe, now deal with tobacco. In the case of addictions, where people find it genuinely very hard to resist temptation, harm reduction surely makes sense. Britain is probably the world's leading vaping nation. Virtually all of South America has banned the practice entirely, at the behest of the tobacco industry. In America, it's largely demonised, and quite a lot of people don't know what it is. Almost all of the 2.6 million vapers in Britain are smokers or ex-smokers, and the quit rate for those trying vaping is greater than for nicotine replacement therapies or cold turkey cessation. This is, in other words, a public health revolution, and it's costing the taxpayer nothing. By saving smokers a fortune, rewarding entrepreneurs, and averting ill health, it's boosting the economy. But we have before us a piece of legislation that strangles that breakthrough in red tape. It's the product of big company lobbying and backroom deals in Brussels. It is legislation which last month the Department of Health admitted in its impact assessment risks increasing, not reducing, the amount of smoking. And I hope in his remarks today the Minister will be fully candid and accept that this part of this directive is a mess which does not deserve defending but does need ameliorating. I've alerted him already to 3 specific matters that I'm seeking clarity on. First, given that the Royal College of Physicians last month told the government that it should promote vaping to smokers, quotes, as widely as possible, unquotes, what new emphatic and unambiguous statement will the Minister make in support of vaping? Second, given that the Department estimates that the Tobacco Product Directive rules will ban 90% of advertising that would have helped to promote this switching, what budget has the Department specifically set aside for a public information campaign to encourage smokers to move to vaping, as the Royal College and Public Health England both want? And third, given that the regulatory burden that the Department is about to place on the industry is so extreme that his officials estimate, at least this is the only estimate in their impact assessment, that the number of notifiable products will be reduced by 96% from 25,000 to possibly as low as 1,000. What expenditure will the Department make to specifically reduce the cost of the onerous testing regime on the industry? I would ask the Minister to avoid repeating the erroneous suggestion his officials have been making that any of the £13 billion of public health benefits that his department surmises will come from the Tobacco Products Directive would be the result of Article 20, or at least Section 6 and 7 of these regulations. In its impact assessment, the table on page 45, the department has not been able to quantify a single benefit from vaping regulation. A little bit of context, my lords. At the beginning of this decade, attempts to reduce smoking were stalling. We taxed the habit to the point where the main beneficiaries were black market traders. We'd barred smoking from every public building. Nicotine patches were proving unpopular with smokers. Then along comes a technological breakthrough thanks to a man who I've met named Hon Lick, working in central China, something that gives a nicotine hit in the same fashion as smoking, but is far, far safer and cleaner. It's a fantastic piece of luck, or rather ingenuity. As the Prime Minister told the other place in December, vaping has now helped more than 1 million people in this country to stop smoking altogether. How safe is vaping? We know that concentrations of harmful and potentially harmful constituents, such as carbonyl compounds, tobacco-specific nitrosamines, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and other constituents, are in the order of 1,500 times higher in cigarette smoke than in vapour. A well-controlled trial has recently been carried out by Grant O'Connell and colleagues working for the vaping manufacturer Fontem Ventures. They asked 15 smokers to give up altogether for 5 days, another 15 to vape only for 5 days, and another 15 to mix vaping and smoking for 5 days. They measured the harmful and potentially harmful constituents in the urine, blood and breath of each group. The results were striking. After 5 days, the vapors' carboxyhemoglobin levels, that's an indication of how much carbon monoxide they had in their system, had dropped by 83%, which was actually an even bigger drop than in the cold turkey cessation group, where it had dropped by 75%. Even the dual users had seen a drop of 23%. The amount of carbon monoxide they exhaled had halved in both the vapors and the cessation group. Much the same was true for all the other biomarkers, except, of course, nicotine. In terms of harmful constituents, vaping, in other words, is almost indistinguishable from not smoking at all. Both Public Health England and the Royal College of Physicians agree that it is much safer than smoking. As far as we can tell, nicotine addiction without smoking is about as dangerous as caffeine addiction. Vaping, my lords, is therefore a public health triumph that the Department of Health has, to its extreme shame, done its utmost to block. In 2010, the department's medicines regulator, the MHRA, tried to completely ban vaping devices. In 2013, the agency, which is financed largely by the pharmaceutical industry, tried to insist that every e-cigarette should be licensed as a medicine. This would again have amounted to a de facto ban. After 6 years of trying, the agency has so far only managed to license one e-cigarette, which is still not available to the public. So if the Department of Health had its way, there would not be 25,000 varieties of vaping product on the market today, but 0. The only winners of the Department of Health policy prescriptions would be undertakers. Thankfully, and my noble friends will know how painful it is for me to say this, thankfully the European Parliament voted down the folly of exclusive medicinal regulation. But it did not vote down the rest of Article 20 of the Tobacco Products Directive, which in that wonderfully undemocratic way is now to be enforced upon us. The truth is that these regulations were scripted in Brussels by pharmaceutical companies desperately trying to protect the sales of their widely unloved nicotine replacement therapies. What we have before the House is still a piece of legislation that is not fit for purpose. When even the Department of Health says that it risks increasing smoking, then we know that we're facing a moral responsibility as legislators to review this in great detail. It most certainly should not be just nodded through. It is no defence to say that some regulation is required. No sensible person would argue against us knowing what is going into e-liquids and what comes out in vapour. Potential toxins should be tested, as happens with food, cosmetics and other consumer products. But as the Department admitted in a parliamentary answer, far more adverse incidents are reported by doctors about pharmaceutical nicotine replacement therapies than e-cigarettes. At most, a bit of tidying up of the testing process was needed. Let me put 3 more questions to my noble friend the Minister. The Royal College of Physicians describes the big warning labels which will deter smokers from using vaping devices as being, quotes, illogical. Does the Minister agree with the Royal College on this? The ban on stronger vaping devices, the very ones most likely to wean heavy smokers into vaping, was criticised 2 years ago by a dozen scientists writing to the Commission, which ignored their advice. Economists now predict that 105,000 extra deaths every year across Europe will result from the ban on stronger devices. Does the Minister agree with this estimate, and if not, what is his estimate? Thirdly, the directive proposes that to cut down the risks of children starting smoking, it is necessary to create a minimum cigarette packet size of 20. Yet it imposes a maximum size for vaping devices. And this miniaturisation will raise prices and generate more packaging waste. Where is the logic in making the most successful substitute to tobacco more difficult to use? My Lords, the Minister has a choice. He could blame Brussels and say this is now a good reason to quit the EU in order to help people quit smoking. An awful lot of the country's vapers, who are natural libertarians, are beginning to take that view. And to dream of the day after Brexit when Britain abolishes the Tobacco Products Directive and goes back to pioneering the virtual elimination of smoking and its replacement by something much less harmful. Or, if the Minister does not wish to turn this into a referendum issue, he can have a very quick rethink and try to alter the implementation of the directives. My Lords, we have a statutory instrument before us, about a third of which is devoted to stifling and exciting innovation that is saving lives.
The question is, this motion be agreed to?
My Lords, I'd like to thank my noble friend Baker for raising this issue today, and like my noble friend, I intend to concentrate solely upon e-cigarettes and vaping. I have no views whatsoever on the rest of the directive. I must, unlike my noble friend, declare a fairly major interest in this subject, in that I smoked 20 cigarettes a day, a packet a day, for the best part of 50 years. I tried a number of different ways of giving up: patches, chewing gum, and willpower, none of which worked until 2 years ago when I took up using an e-cigarette, and I have not had a cigarette since. So I can very pleased to hear the health benefits which my noble friend has described, which I hope I am now enjoying, and I'm very pleased also that I now have the endorsement of the Royal College of Physicians and Public Health England in my course of action. And it is, I believe, recognised by the Department of Health as the #1 tool for helping smokers give up. I don't have the figures, I don't know if my noble friend does, but I would estimate that 99% of people who smoke e-cigarettes are those who are trying or have given up smoking real cigarettes. I cannot really believe that anybody would start using an e-cigarette if they hadn't smoked an ordinary cigarette beforehand, but maybe there are some people who have, I don't know. I can also tell you, your lordships, that it is extremely good for the pocket as well as the health, in that I believe 20 cigarettes now cost something like £9 a packet, a large amount of which goes to the Treasury, of course. And so I was spending £9 a day on cigarettes, whereas now I use a nicotine liquid, which comes in a little 10 millilitre bottle, which costs £5 and lasts me a whole week. So it's very good for my pocket. But also, my lords, I understand that nowadays a large proportion of cigarette smokers do come from the lower income categories of people, and therefore it would be a great benefit to them if they were able to give up smoking cigarettes. I would like confirmation, by the way, from my noble friend, I hope he can give it to me, that the type of liquid I use, nicotine liquid, which is 1.1%, and in 10 millilitre little plastic bottles, will not be banned by this new regulation. I would only conclude by saying that this directive in regard to e-cigarettes was dreamt up in 2012, which actually is quite a long time ago, before I'd heard of e-cigarettes, and I suspect before most people had heard of e-cigarettes. Yet, but like a lot of things which come from Brussels, there was absolutely no adaptation to the fact that e-cigarettes are now recognised as being a good thing rather than a bad. So I hope my noble friend can give me an assurance that the damage limit, he will do all he can to limit the damage that this directive might have on people who are trying to give up smoking.
My Lords, can I also pay tribute to the work that my friend Viscount Ridley has done in terms of getting this debate before us today. And it has a great sense of déjà vu about it, as far as I'm concerned, because I was one of the people in the European Parliament that he referred to that helped to get the original decision made against this directive and against the restrictions on e-cigarettes. And I was also the shadow rapporteur for my group and part of the European Parliament negotiating team that sat there until about 11:30 at night in the Burlingmont, with the Commission chairing it and the Council on the other side of the table, trying to thrash out the very messy compromise that you see before us now in the Tobacco Products Directive. And again, I had no difficulty with the vast majority of the directive. My concern was the sections on e-cigarettes. And before I started working on this, I had no particular knowledge of the subject. But when any dossier is faced before you, the first thing you start doing is reading all of the various publications that they're all listening to all the lobbying and advice and being contacted by constituents. And I was first alerted to it when my email inbox started to fill up with literally hundreds of emails from people all over the country and indeed all over Europe, concerned that these magical devices that they had used to give up smoking were either going to be banned or face severe restrictions. And together with a number of MEPs from all sides, from Liberal Democrats and from the Labour Party in the UK, we started a campaign to try and improve the directive. And I have to say we weren't helped in this particularly by Department of Health officials. Many times I tried to speak to ministers about it to find out who was actually behind the restrictions. Why was there such a campaign on something which seemed to me so self-evidently to provide great public health benefits and harm reduction measures? And I never quite clearly got an answer. I was pointed to a recording of the former Public Health Minister appearing in front of the European Scrutiny Committee of the House of Commons when she was asked why she voted for this directive on behalf of the government, and she turned to her officials and said, but I think the e-cigarette provisions were removed from it, weren't they? Which I think shows a worrying lack of understanding of what she was voting on behalf of the government. Nevertheless, we ended up with the directive. It was a very messy compromise. It was very badly worded, but it's a lot better than it could have been before we campaigned on it. And I think Lord Viscount Ridley is quite right to point out the somewhat murky role of various pharmaceutical interests in producing this. When I started asking questions in the Commission and elsewhere and in the Council about, it seemed to me to be self-evident that these devices were brilliant in terms of reducing tobacco smoking, which is, I thought, what we all wanted. Indeed, why were they even in the directive in the first place? It's called the Tobacco Products Directive. E-cigarettes are not tobacco products in any sense of the word. And the answer came back to me many times that this was argued for, fought for and lobbied for by the pharmaceutical industry, who of course had an awful lot to lose out on if it supplanted and replaced their nicotine patches and gums. I don't know the truth of that, but it seemed to me that they were very successful in getting what they wanted. I agree completely with all the points made by Viscount Ridley and my other colleague, but let me make two additional points. First of all, in terms of advertising, the Royal College of Physicians has a proud history at the heart of tobacco control. Since its first report on smoking and health in 1962, it has been an intellectual leader in the field and is worth listening to. When the headline on the press release on its latest report states in bold capitals, "Promote e-cigarettes widely as a substitute for smoking," we would hope that the government would get the message that 21 world-renowned authors are trying to put across. Yet, we would be wrong if we thought that. For in the regulation that the Department wants us to approve is not the promotion of e-cigarettes, but the suppression of information about e-cigarettes. Paragraph 176 of the Department's impact assessment forecasts that the EU rules will reduce e-cigarette advertising by 90%. And how are smokers supposed to hear about them? In paragraph 167 of the department nonchalantly claims that cutting advertising will in fact not reduce the number of smokers switching to e-cigarettes. Now, we've heard this before, my lords. We've heard this old argument many times before, not from health officials, but from tobacco company executives trying to pretend that advertising smoking would somehow not increase the amount of smoking. And the messages that we give really matter. In the complex decisions that smokers make every day about whether to smoke or to consume nicotine through much cleaner forms, their perceptions of the relative risks of these products are indeed crucial. The Royal College of Physicians, Public Health England, Action on Smoking and Health have all raised deep concerns about how smokers perceive e-cigarettes to be much more risky than they actually are. It's very interesting that Action on Smoking and Health should now say this, because I recall when we were actually dealing with the directive, that was not the message that they were giving at the time. But we're certainly not going to give this message by banning 90% of advertising, and not by insisting on e-cigarette packaging carrying big health warnings, which is what the government is asking us to approve in these regulations. The Royal College of Physicians described the imposition of these warnings as illogical, bearing in mind that nicotine patch boxes do not have to warn of the dangers of nicotine. Much of the problem stems from media reporting of junk science, and the worst example was a headline in the Telegraph in December screaming that e-cigarettes are no safer than smoking tobacco, a nonsense report based on junk science. The second point that I want to raise today is that of novel tobacco products. There has been a number of new products being introduced in this category, particularly products called heat not burn. They're very interesting developments, and there are a range of other alternative products in development as well. Some not coming to market, some coming to market which contain tobacco but work by heating it and not burning it. And the absence of combustion here is the key, because of course we all know, as Viscount Ridley has said, that the harm from smoking is caused primarily through the toxins produced by the burning of that tobacco. In 1976, Professor Michael Russell wrote that people smoke for the nicotine, but they die from the tar, which the recent Royal College of Physicians again reflected in their title of their recent study on e-cigarettes, Nicotine Without Smoke. With such technology developments and a new regulatory basis, with the introduction of the TPD, are the government looking at opportunities from the range of products in addition to e-cigarettes as part of a harm reduction agenda in the new tobacco control plan? My Lords, this is truly a terrible piece of legislation, which I plead guilty for playing my part in helping to produce in the first place, but it's not too late to undo some of that harm and to help to increase and encourage the taking up of e-cigarettes and the consequent reduction in tobacco consumption. Instead of trying to restrict e-cigarettes, the government should in fact be trying to positively encourage them. Thank you.
This regulation or directive directly affects me, my health, and indeed my well-being. I started smoking before I was a teenager, building up to about 50 cigarettes a day. I've tried every trick in the book to kick the habit, but nothing seemed to work. I knew it would kill me, that I would be gathered by the grim reaper before my time, but I just couldn't stop. I couldn't kick the habit. Then 2 summers ago, I was in a taxi in a traffic jam, and I was chatting to the driver, and at one point said, "I do wish we could hurry up, because I'm dying for a fag." He turned round with an e-cigarette in his hand and said, "Have you tried one of these?" And I said, "No, what is it?" And he explained that he had tried them and he hadn't had smoked a cigarette since. He kindly wrote down the details for me to Google, but he did insist that if I did try these e-cigarettes, I must try the strongest strength I could get, because if I didn't, I wouldn't get the necessary nicotine hit, and I'd be back on fags in no time at all. I took his advice, using the strongest nicotine, 2.4%, and I haven't looked back. I haven't even had one puff of tobacco since 2 summers ago, rather like my noble friend Lord Brabazon. So, my lords, they do work, and they do help people to stop smoking. My lords, as we've been told, there are 2.6 million people vaping in the UK. 40%, like me, are ex-smokers, and 59% are dual users. They both vape and smoke. And I think your lordships will agree that a single vape is better than a single drag on a fag. Interestingly, only 0.2% of under 18-year-old non-smokers have tried vaping, although continued use is negligible. Research conducted by Cancer Research UK found that smokers who vape are 60% more likely to quit than those that use willpower or over-the-counter nicotine products. My lords, these statistics demonstrate that vaping is used almost entirely, 99%, by current and ex-smokers. 61% of them say the sole reason for vaping is to stop using traditional tobacco products. So why have we got this directive, these regulations? Our masters in Brussels believe that vaping could provide a gateway to smoking, that these tough new laws are necessary to protect non-smokers, particularly children, from using e-cigarettes. But, my lords, as I've tried to explain, there is no evidence for this. 99% of those vaping are current or ex-smokers like me. And as for children, as I said earlier, only 0.2% of under 18-year-old non-smokers have tried vaping. So, my lords, there is no evidence that vaping is a gateway to tobacco, and no evidence that vaping products influence children. And vaping is estimated to be 95% safer than smoking. You would think Brussels would want to encourage vaping. So where do Brussels get their evidence that vaping is harmful? I just don't know. Or have Brussels been got at by the tobacco lobbyists who have seen their sales of traditional tobacco fall, or indeed the pharmaceutical industry, as the noble Lords, Lord Callan and Ridley have already suggested. So, Brussels are banning advertising, e-cigarettes must carry health warnings, and nicotine strengths are to be restricted. To my mind, restricting nicotine strength to 2% will be particularly damaging. And I would say that, as I still use the 2.4%, as do about a quarter of e-cigarette users. By taking up vaping, I hope to keep the Grim Reaper at bay for a little longer. I just hope when I run out of my 2.4 nicotine supply and am forced to use the weaker nicotine, that I don't switch back to smoking. And that is the danger for many users of e-cigarettes. My lords, perhaps by the time I do run out of my 2.4% nicotine supply, stronger nicotine may be available on the black market, with all the dangers that that will entail. My lords, I would like to just use one or two quotes to back up my previous assertions. The Office for National Statistics have said e-cigarettes are almost exclusively used by smokers and ex-smokers. Almost none of those who have never smoked cigarettes were e-cigarette users. Public Health England said there is a need to publicise the current best estimate that using electronic cigarettes is 95% safer than smoking. And they went on to say, encouraging smokers who cannot or do not want to stop smoking to switch to electronic cigarettes could help reduce smoking-related disease, death and health inequalities. This was backed by the Royal College of Physicians, who have said, on the basis of the available evidence, the Royal College of Physicians believes that e-cigarettes could lead to significant falls in the prevalence of smoking in the UK, prevent many deaths and episodes of serious illness. And even the Prime Minister last December said, I think we do need to be guided by the experts. We should look at the report from the Public Health England, but it is promising to see that overall 1 million people are estimated to have used e-cigarettes to help them quit, or have replaced smoking with e-cigarettes completely. So I think we should be making clear that this is a very legitimate path for many people to improve their health and the health of the nation. Well, quite so. But I don't know what my noble friend the Minister is going to say when he responds, but I expect him to support the regulations and the EU directive. There is very little else he can do. Our masters in Brussels have told us to jump, and sadly the only thing that the British government can do is jump. Until June the 24th, of course.
My Lords, I should first of all declare an interest, because this is a tobacco and related order, since I'm an associate member of the Houses of Parliament Pipe and Cigar Club. I'm an associate member because I'm a non-smoker. So they tolerate me. And I'm pleased to be a member of that association or club because I believe that the attitude towards smoking has been quite absurd in many respects, and measures have been taken against the smoking population, and I'm talking about the adult smoking population, which are not appropriate in a democratic society that should allow adults to make choices about their lifestyles and not to have them dictated to by government. But we're not talking about tobacco today, and I only just saw the noble Viscount Lord Ridley's prayer. Is it a prayer? Perhaps it isn't. But the fact that he has instituted a debate today, and I think he and other noble speakers have really put the case. I think, as far as I'm concerned, there's probably nothing else to say, except to give them support in resisting the government's and, of course, the EU's decisions to restrict a product which is going to assist others from embarking or giving up tobacco smoking. That is almost impossible to believe, that a government which has been so anti-smoking has itself brought in so many anti-smoking measures over the years, and I think I've been involved in them for at least 25 years, should now, when we're on the brink of getting people or assisting people to give up tobacco smoking, they put these very stringent restrictions upon them. Why on earth are they banning the advertising of them? Why on earth are they doing that? If it is to be a health benefit to people who smoke, and the government think ought to give up smoking. That seems to me to be an absolutely absurd position. I'd like to ask whether there had been consultations with the producers of these, they're called e-cigarettes. I think perhaps that was a mistake, because they're not cigarettes. And, you know, anybody who mentions cigarettes are immediately jumped on by the government and the department. And so perhaps it was a mistake to label them cigarettes. They clearly are not cigarettes. And they shouldn't really be treated as such. And what I want to know is whether the people who produce these e-cigarettes have been consulted. Do ministers, or have ministers had discussions with them? Now, I ask that question because the department and the ministers refused even to discuss, to meet to discuss the tobacco companies. Now, perhaps that's understandable, because, of course, the World Health Organization recommends that they shouldn't be given a voice. But in this case, it is something which will help people to give up tobacco. So have they had discussions with the people who produce these? And I'd like to know the answer to that. I think the only other thing I have to say is that I hope the government will listen to this debate. Not much hope of it, in actual fact, because in the past, trying to get the government to listen to reason is like banging your head against a brick wall. It doesn't matter what you say, they've got their policies, and incidentally, when they get into government, they often change them. And I can remember sitting in this room on the other side of the of this chamber, listening to a previous health minister speaking, not voting, but speaking against some of the measures which were being introduced by the Labour Party. Like, for example, the hiding of cigarettes behind blinds. He was against that. And indeed, I well remember him meeting the retailers and saying how a Conservative government would see that this was repealed. But of course, they're in government now, and they're in favour and have brought forward this legislation. Not about banning a dangerous product like smoking, but banning a product which helps people to stop dangerous smoking. So I do hope that the Noble Lord, the Minister, will listen very carefully to the experiences of people that have spoken in this debate. And to add that, I have met many people, including a relative, who were heavy smokers but have been weaned off smoking by using e-cigarettes. So I do hope, I'm obliged to the Noble Lord, Viscount Lord Ridley, for seeing that we have a proper debate on this, and I hope the government will listen to it.
My Lords, could I start by apologising to the Noble Lord, Viscount Ridley, for missing the first few minutes of his speech. I appear to be a jinx on the railway industry just at the moment. Today's excuse for the cancellation of my train was a broken windscreen, which I found pretty unique, but I suppose at 125 miles an hour, as it was at Pendolino, the windscreen ought to be intact for the whole of its journey, so I do apologise for missing the first couple of minutes of what he had to say. I agree very, very much with what has been said, largely from both sides. I don't have any financial or personal interests to declare, although At 74, my generation were habitual smokers. I was surrounded by smokers. Both my parents smoked when I went to work for the railway industry. Virtually everybody that I worked with smoked. But unlike the noble Lord, Lord Brabazon or the Earl of Cathcart, I managed to find the willpower to give up about 30 years ago. I did it purely by terrifying myself. It became apparent that smoking and lung cancer smoking was synonymous with lung cancer, and I convinced myself that every cigarette that I lit was the one that was going to give me lung cancer. So eventually I terrified myself into stopping smoking. However, I do not understand the purpose of this SI or what will follow from it, that we are in fact going to ban products that would help people to give up smoking. Like other speakers, I do not believe that someone who is a non-smoker currently would move from vaping to tobacco. Surely it has been proved, or obvious enough, that people move the other way from tobacco to vaping, and I can't understand why the government should be so ready to accept this particular SI. That's not to say I'm getting involved in what's going to happen on the 23rd of June. But there is a group of people that I think we ought to, and the government ought to be concerned about so far as smoking in the future is concerned. I'm, as I go around the country, concerned about the number of young people who smoke, particularly the number of young women, many of whom believe that smoking helps them to stay fairly slim. I was going to say fit, obviously it doesn't, but stay fairly slim. And I think anything that would help them off tobacco would be a good thing. I've no doubt that the two medical doctors who will reply for both sides will tell us that there's no scientific evidence, of course, that smoking keeps you trim. However, I have to, again, quote my own experience. I put a stone and a half on quite quickly when I gave up smoking. No medical reason for that, of course. It is the fact that smokers are anxious to put down their knives and forks and head for the door to have a cigarette immediately after the main course. And once I gave up smoking, I stayed for the ice cream and the puddings and all the rest of it. So I want to know from both my the medical profession from both sides of the chamber which will kill me first, smoking or my spare tyre, because they've warned me understandably about both. Mention has been made, my lords, by the noble Lord Callaghan of the reduced risk tobacco products that I understand that the industry are looking at the present time, the heat not burn products. I understand the Chancellor did mention these products in his recent budget. I'd be interested to know from the Government Minister what the Government's intentions are. I fear that if the Treasury act in their usual way under any government, it would be another excuse to tax something as heavily as possible. But I think if we are serious about weaning people away from the demon that is tobacco, then to ban alternative products which are proven to be less dangerous is far from a sensible way forward. And I'd be interested to hear from both front benches as to why they apparently are supporting this particular SI.
My Lords, I just want to say a couple of words on this. First of all, I don't really have an interest to declare. I have a wife who's a very heavily into chain smoking, but I don't smoke, and I let her go on smoking because it keeps her slightly calmer and livable with. And I think it's probably better than her going on to Valium to try and calm her down. I'm a chocoholic, which is a different problem altogether. The reason I'm standing up is because I do think we should separate out in our minds the difference between the harm done from the burning of substances which we inhale and whether there is harm or not in a particular drug that's within it, which is nicotine. And if you separate those two out as two different issues, you realise that this is not the right directive, because this is about tobacco at the end of the day is a herbaceous substance which we dry and burn. And that's what it's meant to be about. It's not about whether or not nicotine is a beneficial drug. And I don't know much about it as a doctor, because I'm not a doctor. I read things in the press, for instance, which says that it can help with Alzheimer's and dementia, and some things which say, no, that's rubbish. I do agree with you that it definitely used to be an appetite suppressant. And one of the things I predicted when they cracked down on tobacco is we'd have an obesity crisis. And it's one of the few things I've been right about. It happened very quickly. And if we want to prevent all the stomach and overweight problems, you could recommend smoking, perhaps. But still, it's a matter of which way you're going to go. The calming effect is well known for people who are quite nervous and tense. And again, I think that's the nicotine rather than the burning part of it. And the other thing is, I remember we now have signs over the motorways which says, tiredness kills, take a break. In the old days, you had a cigarette when you were feeling tired driving. I know you should take a break, but sometimes 30 miles to the next place you can stop, sometimes you're against a deadline, and it was perfectly accepted the way of keeping yourself awake was with a nicotine hit. And so maybe vaping would do that. But I do think we should not be confusing the two things, and that's the point that I really wanted to make. I think that the noble Lord Stoddard Swindon's point, it was very apt, which is about not what's in a name. They should never have called them e-cigarettes, because they are not cigarettes. And I think that's a very good point. And that goes back to Noble Viscount Lord Ridley's point about, you've got to separate out the two issues, and I think that's where he's absolutely right. Two things just to finish up with. One is, this is a directive that we're trying to implement into UK law. It's not a regulation, which means it's directly applicable in the UK. The purpose of the directive is slightly, you should be able to modify it in light of the local circumstances while still trying to comply with the spirits of things. I haven't read the directive thoroughly, or I haven't read it at all, to know whether there should be some room for manoeuvre. And if we feel it's better for the UK population to write it into our local laws in a different way, I would hope that that amount of latitude exists within the directive to allow us to do it, and within the EU to do it. And the final thing, of course, is the conspiracy theory, which is wonderful, which is, of course, the Treasury gets huge amounts of tax from the smokers and don't from the vapers. So maybe the Treasury really doesn't want to see vaping take off, would rather see us smoking. And the government has a vested interest, and maybe it should declare that every time it tries to promote the directive. It has a vested interest in making sure this directive goes through unchanged and prevents vaping.
It's been a great debate, and I'm very grateful to the noble Lord Viscount Ridley for once again bringing our attention to this matter. It's a pity that we're in Grand Committee and not in the Chamber, but I can understand the reason for that. My Lords, I should declare my presidency of the Royal Society of Public Health, which has, of course, produced documentary evidence on electronic cigarettes. It's tempting to debate Europe, and I'm looking forward to the noble Lord Prior's view on Europe, as clearly it seems to be part of our debate, and looks like we've got quite a long time to wait this evening. I am in favour of remaining in the EU, but I would just remark that this directive doesn't seem to show much evidence. The Prime Minister claimed to have negotiated a new concordant relationship with the EU. And, my Lords, on the argument that if we were outside the EU, we wouldn't be doing this, I'm very doubtful, because, my Lords, the fact is, and I speak as President of the RSPH, there are some elements in the public health world who were prejudiced from the start against e-cigarettes. That clearly influenced the Department of Health, and the reason why it's taken such a really rather mealy-mouthed approach to e-cigarettes. And, my Lords, it's simply not based on evidence at all. And it's interesting that if you look at some of the papers produced by public health bodies, there are some Weasley words around this issue about we still don't know and we need to be very, very careful. My Lords, I'm afraid these are Weasley words, and they're really trying to find a legitimisation for the initial reaction, which was very negative, and which I'm afraid has laid the foundations for where we are today. Because, my Lords, this is bonkers. I mean, it is simply madness. Here we have a product which clearly is a benefit to smokers. There is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that they will be used by non-smokers, which is where all this nonsense has come from. There's no evidence whatsoever. I mean, why would a non-smoker take up these e-cigarettes? It is absolutely bonkers. And the problem that we've got, and why, I mean, the noble Lord Stoddart and I have debated for many years tobacco issues, and he will know that I've been strongly in favour of very, very strong legislation. I moved the amendment to ban the smoking of tobacco in cars with children only a year or two ago. So, my Lords, I'm not at all worried about being very, very tough in relation to smoking, but e-cigarettes are completely different. I don't understand why they're part of the directive at all. I just don't understand why they are classified in the same way. My lords, the evidence is abundantly clear that they are almost wholly beneficial. And my concern, my lords, is that it's also clear that the public are at the moment confused. I mean, my RSPH research revealed 90% of the public still regard nicotine itself as harmful. The Public Health England, going back to September 2015, say in their report, it was a joint statement they issued on behalf of themselves and another UK health organisation, and yet millions of smokers have the impression that e-cigarettes are at least as harmful as tobacco. So, my lords, it seems to me that one of the real adverse consequences of this is that as it becomes known that there are going to be these major restrictions on the promotion of e-cigarettes in the future, that all that will do is emphasise the belief that actually they are harmful. And I don't know what I mean, I've seen the RIA, but I couldn't see there any analysis in relation to the impact that that could have on reducing uptake of e-cigarettes amongst smokers. But I think it's a very important point. So, my lords, I just wanted to ask 3 points to the noble Lord the Minister. First of all, Viscount Ridley asked him about what was going to happen in terms of investment in smoking cessation services. My understanding is that as a result of the government's cut to the grant to local authorities of public health, in fact, smoking cessation service investment is going down. And I'd asked him whether he could confirm that and say what he's doing to reverse the pattern. The second is, my lords, clearly this is going through because there is no motion to stop it going through. What monitoring is going to take place, and how soon will the government undertake an assessment of the impact, and assuming that we are still in the EU, will he be prepared to go back to the EU if evidence is clear that it's actually having an adverse impact on smokers giving up smoking? And I hope they can give some reassurance on that. The third issue is in relation to enforcement. I mean, paragraph 53 of the statutory instrument makes it clear it's the duty of each Weights and Measures Authority in Great Britain and each district council in Northern Ireland to enforce these regulations within this area. So, my lords, the question I want to put to the noble Lord Minister is what guidance is going to be given to the Weights and Measures authorities about taking a light-handed approach to enforcement? Because, my lords, I really do think it's quite clear that these are not supported, these provisions are not supported. It's pretty obvious that the government itself doesn't support them because of the amelioration that they've attempted to do in terms of transposing the directive. But I think, my lords, at the very least, one could expect a message to be given to Weights and Measures authorities that actually that they do expect enforcement to be proportionate, minimalist, and certainly light touch.
Well, my lords, I don't know whether to thank the noble Earl Ridley for bringing this debate here today or not, because I have to say the arguments that have been put have been very powerful, and it will be obtuse of me to say otherwise. Perhaps we could just start by going back to, I think, the opening words of Lord Ridley, when he said that there are three ways of trying to influence the behaviour of people doing things that do harm. You can punish them, you can hector them, or you could try to offer safe alternatives. And in the article he wrote in the Times some time ago, he used an example of methadone as being something that is not desirable in itself, but is used as a means of treating people who have got heroin addiction. I think in the case of tobacco, we've tried all three things. We have penalised people through taxation. We have hectored them incessantly for years. And thirdly, we are now looking, well, we've tried nicotine replacement therapies, but in a way vaping is a way of trying to encourage people to use something which is less harmful than smoking. Considerably less harmful, I should say. But we've used all three ways of doing it. And I think actually most people would agree that in England, the success we've had in reducing the consumption of tobacco has been hugely successful. So I think I can unequivocally say, because the noble lord did ask for a statement, I think, of what the government's view was on vaping. We are unequivocally in favour of vaping for people who smoke cigarettes as a means of coming off cigarettes. There's absolutely no question about that. And I think the report produced both by PHE and but most recently, actually more powerfully, very powerfully, by the Royal College of Physicians, entirely endorses that view. I mean, Jane Dacre, the RCP, the president of the Royal College of Physicians, said, with careful management and proportionate regulation, harm reduction provides an opportunity to improve the lives of millions of people. That was her response to the RCP report. But I just picked that out because she used the word proportionate regulation in that. And I think that is what we're discussing today, really. It's not whether we're in favour of vaping or not in favour of vaping. It's whether it's what kind of regulation should be around it. And just on the European bit, just for, as the noble Lord Hunt couldn't resist throwing that in as one of his questions, I'm not sure that if we'd been left to our own devices, we might not have come out with something far worse several years ago, actually. And if the noble Lord was kind enough in his speech to mention the original views of PHE and the MHRA, actually, we may well have brought in a licensing system or indeed banned them altogether several years ago. So I'm not sure whether this is, whether one can lay this at the door of Brussels or indeed our own government. I think that we have been far too quick to resort to regulation in many areas, and certainly I'm wholly in sympathy, as a rule, less regulation is the best place to start. So I think actually what we are discussing today is really whether or not this regulation is proportionate or not, and what damage it may do, or what the unintended consequences of this directive might be. I could just mention, while I have it to hand, that to put the noble Lord Bramazon-Otara at rest, that the concentration that he's taking it at will not be affected. It will not have to become licensed by the MHRA. But sadly, I cannot say the same about the noble Earl Cathcart, whose course on his 2.4% is higher than the 2, which is the cut-off point for licensing. But I'll come to that in more detail in a minute, if I can. Can I just pick up a few of the fears that have been expressed about this directive and see whether I can allay the minds of noble lords today? It has been said that the directive will ban flavours in e-liquids. I think I should be clear about it. It will not ban flavours in e-liquids. What it does say is that flavours that pose a risk to human health should not be used. And I think probably we can all agree that is a sensible rule. There is an additive called diacetyl, which is, I think, used actually for making popcorn in other uses, which I think has, and there are some other flavours where there is some evidence that airways can be inflamed. I think we'd all agree that it would be sensible if we can. The noble lord is looking. Questioning at that, but there is some evidence. I think it was actually in the RCP report that some flavours can cause some damage. It has been said that the directive will ban all advertising and prevent shop owners from communicating with their customers. It does not do that. The new rules do not prevent information being provided to customers, either online or in physical retail outlets. Neither does it ban online forums and independently compiled reviews or blogs. Some advertising will also be allowed, such as point of sale, billboards and leaflets, subject to the rules set out in existing advertising codes, to ensure that these do not appeal to people under 18 or non-users. There will therefore remain a wide range of information on products available to smokers who wish to buy these products. Now, on this point of advertising, it will reduce the amount of advertising. I mean,
I take it that they won't be allowed to advertise on television. Am I right? But I see on television adverts, other adverts from the pharmaceutical companies, Nicorette and that sort of thing. So why on earth should these products be treated any differently?
I think, my lords, that what the directive is trying to do, and it may not be doing it very well, but what it's trying to do is to differentiate between smokers and non-smokers, and particularly non-smokers under the age of 18. So it wants to encourage information to be given to smokers, but does not want to risk the unintended consequence of normalising vaping so that other people who don't smoke start doing so. That is the purpose behind it. Now, if we find, another question raised by the Noble Earl, Lord Ridley, was about how much money we'll be spending on public information. I mean, I think if there is evidence that the impact on advertising is such that smokers are not getting the right information about switching to e-cigarettes or vaping, then I think there will be a very strong case to be made for a public information campaign to correct that. But I think we'll have to wait and see to see the impact that the directive does have on advertising. It has been said also that the directive will ban certain types of product and make those available less effective. No current type of e-cigarette will be banned. In addition, I think it's worth noting that this is a fast-growing and innovative market. I think, actually, I read somewhere that Goldman Sachs had put vaping down as one of the 8th most disruptive products being marketed in worldwide at the moment. It is a highly disruptive and innovative market. We don't know how many products there are, but it's somewhere between up as many as maybe 25,000 different products in this market. It is a new and very dynamic and innovative market. So we are persuaded, or officials are persuaded, that there will be still, after this directive comes through, there will still be many, many products on the market. Concerns have been raised about the cost of notification. These are the products that are below 2 milligrams per mil. The MHRA has announced the feed for notification will be £150 per product. Has been leading work with our partners in other member states and UK industry to develop and publish pragmatic guidance on the reporting requirements to minimise the burden on business. So we'll have to wait and see, but I don't think it will be right to assume that there will be a massive diminution or a significant diminution of the number of products in the market. Lastly, concerns have been expressed about the limit of 20 milligrams per mil, which will not meet the needs of smokers who are most addicted, and they will be unable to benefit from the harm reduction potential of these products. Again, this is not the case. Higher strength products can still access the market after May 20th, but they will need a medicines licence. And indeed, the government would welcome a wider range of applications for licensed products. The Noble Lord Ridley said that there was one at the moment, which is true, and that it's not been properly marketed, but the government would welcome more products in this space, so they can be made available to those like the Noble Earl Cathcart, to those who need and would benefit from them. We know the most commonly purchased products are below 20 milligrams per mil. We don't know the exact number of those above that limit, and that this strength of 20 milligrams per mil or below meets the demands of the majority of current users and balances the risk of exposure of nicotine to children with the needs of users. Last week, the European Court agreed with this assessment, ruling that the provisions set out in the Tobacco Products Directive, including those limiting strengths, were proportionate and valid. I think where we are with this directive, it will be a massive unintended consequence if, as a result of this directive, fewer people gave up smoking. It will be. Sorry. Obvious Yeah. Well, it will be. It will be.
But my friend, allow me. It may well be unintended. I wouldn't know what is in the intentions of the curious people who devised this, but it is certainly an inevitable consequence, and it's the consequence that matters, not the intention.
Well, the intention of the regulation is to make vaping safer and less variable than it currently is. And by making it a better product, causing more people to use it, that is the intention of the directive. If it does indeed result in smokers not giving up smoking, then it will have achieved the reverse to what the government wishes to do. Because we are absolutely clear. The government view is clear that we wish people to give up smoking. We wish them to quit altogether is our intention. But as a way of quitting, if they can give up smoking and take up vaping, that is something that we wish to do. Of course, I understand that nothing I could say today is going to satisfy noble friends and noble lords in this House. But I have done my best to put our case forward. Yeah.
He's very graciously giving way, but it's interesting that he used those terms. There is this reluctance to sort of promote vaping, isn't there? Even in the words he used, it's a qualification. So the government would prefer everyone to give up smoking, but if not, then they're kind of half-hearted. It sounds like there's a half-hearted. Now, I understand why they're in that position, but the issue that I raised with him is that the evidence is the public are actually confused. And my concern is that by taking this measure, and if Weights and Measures authorities do enforce this in a heavy-handed way, it will confirm the public's view that actually there is something wrong with vaping. I mean, for goodness sake, if we could persuade all smokers to vape, it would be such a fantastic public health movement. Why have we got this hesitation? I don't understand it.
I think the hesitation comes because for a number of years the evidence around vaping was not clear, and many scientists, distinguished scientists, it wasn't just the tobacco lobby, many distinguished scientists felt that it was harmful or potentially harmful. It is absolutely clear now, and I said this earlier on, that I'm unequivocal about this, that vaping is far, far more preferable to smoking. That doesn't alter the fact that quitting altogether from smoking or vaping is probably the best outcome.
Both the Noble Lord Callan and I mentioned the heat not burn products. I know, strictly speaking, they're not covered by the SI, but they are covered by the legislation emanating from Brussels as a whole, as I understand it. And as the Chancellor did mention in his budget that he was looking at this alternative, what is in fact an alternative to cigarettes at the present time. I wonder if the Minister could comment perhaps on the Government's intentions in future.
Well, this is on the taxation point.
Yes.
I'm not aware of any intentions to tax these products. But I will ask further about that question and write to the Noble Lord, but as things stand at the moment, I'm not aware of any intention to do so.
Hans has now twice mentioned about the Weights and Measures enforcing this in a heavy-handed or a light touch. Can the Minister just comment on which he thinks they will do?
The enforcement will, can I put it this way, will be more Italian than traditionally British.
Question about taxation. I wonder, I understand, of course, that the Noble, and I'm obliged to him for giving way yet again, but I understand he has no power over taxation, but he does, as a part of the department, have the opportunity to recommend to the Treasury. Would he be prepared to ask his department to recommend to the Treasury that they should not put any tax other than VAT on this particular product?
Well, so I'm not responsible for public health in the Department of Health, but I will talk to my noble friend, my honourable friend Jane Ellison, who is the Minister for Public Health, and put that view very strongly to her.
My Lords, I will be very brief because I know that others are waiting to start another debate. I'm most grateful to all noble Lords who have spoken in this debate, Lord Brabazon, Lord Callanan, Lord Cathcart, Lord Stoddart, Lord Snape, Lord Errol, Lord Hunt, Lord Pryor. And I'd say to Lord Snape that I think he looks in extremely good shape to me. He didn't get his the advice that he was looking for on his health, but and I'm not medically qualified, but he looks fine to me. And I do.
What are his medical qualifications for reassuring me?
I withdraw the advice. I would agree with both the noble Lord Stoddart and the noble Lord Errol that we do need to change the vocabulary here. And indeed, I do actually myself now use the phrase vaping device rather than e-cigarette whenever possible, because I do think it makes more sense and it's a shorter word for a start. I was also fascinated to learn from the noble Lord Errol, or rather to recall how one kept awake on motorways before Red Bull was invented. I didn't realise that cigarettes had that effect. And the noble Lord Hunt, I think, has put his finger on it. There is a real issue of public confusion still. We've seen it in opinion polls recently, that people have increased their suspicion of this product over the last couple of years because of the misinformation studies that were cited by others. And the issue of harm is a very tricky one to get across to the public, because you cannot say these are absolutely safe or that they're good for you, which conceivably, I mean, they're certainly good for smokers, but are they good for in the absolute terms? No, but that's not the point. The point is harm reduction. The point is relative harm. My Lords, I had wanted originally to put down a regret motion to express somewhat stronger dissatisfaction with this directive and the way it's been moved into law, but the best chance of getting a debate before the end of the session was to take note, and I'm sure that the House therefore does want to take note. Just a couple of other very quick points. It was mentioned by my noble friend Lord Brabazon that smoking is a very regressive thing at the moment. It's done much more it bears down much more heavily in terms of cost and indeed in terms of suffering on poorer people than richer people. It's no longer an equal opportunity killer, as you could put it that way. But I am most grateful to my noble friend the Minister for a very different tone in his response to when we first debated this, maybe I think 2 years ago in this very room, not from him but from his predecessor, and for his very unequivocal statement that this is a good thing for smokers to take up vaping. And I also am very encouraged to hear him make the point, and I will press him on this as we go forward, that although this directive prevents advertising, it does not prevent a public information campaign to get the point across to smokers. And I think that with that and the promise of Italian light-style implementation, do I withdraw my, or take...
Beg to move.
I just beg to move, that's the phrase, thank you.
Question, is this motion be agreed to? As many as are of that opinion will say content. Contrary not content, the contents have it.
There you are, Mark. Well, you're on screen, mate. Did you enjoy that?
I did indeed. So I was just putting some more batteries in my ends.
In your what?
In my relay.
That's better. I thought you said ends there for a minute.
Relay, my black relay. So I've got the green and white relay.
It's blue. It's blue.
The show. Yes.
I've got wood.
Yes, Matt's got wood. I must get mine wooded next time. Yes, it was very enjoyable, that. Yes, let's just hope it moves into the other house.
Indeed, so yes, very much so, right. Oh, that was a fade. I hadn't intended that. Never mind. Seamless, absolutely seamless. During the course of that video, I'll freely admit that my Tanqueray glass and I were getting very, very well acquainted. I was celebrating the vape right the way through. It absolutely was.
I'll tell you what though, Dave.
Uh-huh.
It filled 5 minutes, didn't it?
Do you know, it did. It filled 5 minutes. I don't think we've ever had a show run over by quite as much as this.
No.
Do I look bothered?
No. Do it. I just look bothered.
Hugely.
Hugely bothered, I am. Look at let's kind of get to where we're at with all of this. Yes, the UK is going to be reasonably okay. UK okay. Austria fucked. Belgium fucked. Romania fucked. Hungary fucked. Loads of other member states fucked. And we've got to fight this. We cannot let them get away with this. We heard Lord Cathcart needing 24 milligram juice. I don't want him to have to go to the black market. It's going to be there, but look, I want him to be able to drop into any newsagent, into any vape shop and get 24 milligram. So people, here's what I want you to do. And this is kind of going to close the show down. You've all got an MP. You've all got an MEP. Whether we stay in or we leave on the 23rd of June, 24th of June is immaterial. You need to go and see them now. You need to go and tell them, not in so many words, but look, this TPD thing, it's shite. We need to get shot of it here in the UK, and we need to get shot of it throughout Europe. There is no scientific reason why we should be limited to 2 ml tanks, why we should be limited to 20 milligram juice, why we should be limited at all. We have the chance now. We have the will now. We have the political will now to get rid of the TPD. Let's take it. Let's take this chance. Let's go and see our representatives and tell them, it's shite, get shot. That could be a hashtag. It's shite, get shot. Sav, what do you reckon?
Couldn't agree more.
Hashtag ISGS.
Yes, ISGS.
It's shite, get shot.
Yeah.
I need to say a massive, huge, massive thank you to everybody that stuck with us until 10 to 11 tonight. You've got no idea what that means to us as a team here on VTTV. I should also say, and I can't show you this because I haven't set the shot up and I should have done. At the moment we have got 1,509 supporters for the NNA. We've put bazillions on during the course of the show, and I hope to see that doubled over the next week. Our audience, we've said this before, we've got the best chat on the planet. We've got the best viewers on the planet. You are so wonderful. Thank you so much for everything you do. You've got no idea how much we appreciate it. All of us as a team. I'm gonna pop that oh, I've clicked on the wrong thing. Click there, do that. I'm gonna pop Marco's there. Tell them, Marco.
Yeah, we do what we do for you guys, for the community. It's something we're extremely passionate about, and you know we spend a huge amount of time getting ourselves so we can do the shows and get into like the expos and stuff. A, because we're passionate vapors, and B, because we want to help everybody that we can. Smokers, vapors, people who want to switch, everybody. And without you guys watching us and you guys taking part, then there'd be no point, would there?
Exactly. Sav, have you got anything to say?
All I can add to what you've already said is I absolutely love every single one of our chat, our audience. They're just all fantastic. Brilliant people.
Lovely. Matt?
I can't really say much else, to be honest. It's all been covered. However, I will add, not only are our viewers and chat participants the best people in chat and viewers, but they're also the best looking, I would say.
Best looking?
Yeah, they're the best looking viewers and chat partakers.
You've heard of Specsavers, haven't you?
No, I haven't actually. Please tell me.
No, don't go there. They're against e-cigs. Use another one. Any other one. We don't care which one. Just any one other than Specsavers. I'm going to close the show off now. I'm just tempted to try and take it to 11 o'clock just for the sake of it.
36 minutes, Dave. We can fill 6 minutes.
No. That's.
Oh.
I've actually. All right. Okay. All right. I've had an idea. I'm just going to play this in. Ah, bugger! No. Try again.
Yesterday, the Noble Lord Prior said that he spoke up for vaping as a way of getting off cigarettes, and so is the Royal College of Physicians. So why are we bringing in the Brussels diktat that says we must include vaping in the tobacco directive?
Well, I'm happy to look at this issue closely. It is I think that it's necessary to differentiate between smoking and vaping because they have very different health effects. I actually think that is what is being achieved, but I'll look carefully into this and write to my honourable friend.
There you go. The train now standing on platform 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 has come in sideways. Marco?
Yes, and there's no buffet car, I'm afraid, and there's also no free Wi-Fi in first class. I'm terribly sorry about that.
It's a shock, isn't it? It's terrible. Right, I think we've managed to fill 5 minutes. Oh, bugger, I'm just no. There you go. Look, Mr. Cameron is going to look into it. Mr. Cameron will not look into it unless you go and talk to your MP and make your MP write to Mr. Cameron and say not only should he look into it, he should shovel the shite out of the window as quickly as he possibly can. Because the bottom line on it is the TPD is altogether shite. That's the word. The traditional spelling, Height, just in case you wondered. I'm going to go. We've got to go. I'll be honest, I'm pissed. Well, you know, how we...
No difference from any other Thursday night then, too.
No. Standard Thursday, by 11 o'clock, I'm totally comatose. If you're new to vaportrails.tv, thank you so very much for joining us tonight. We appreciate you coming along, and I hope you'll come again. If you've been with us for a long, long time, you've got no idea how much that means to us. It really, really does mean a lot. Because we didn't get paid for this. That's Geordie for. We actually achieved near a salary. We do this for you, you know. And also because we're egotistical, self-centered, show-off bastards, but that's entirely different in itself.
Completely different issue.
I'd like to point out I'm not, that's why I hide in the veil of fog.
That's not why you hide in a veil of fog at all. The bit I don't get is you look at Marco's studio and there's not a wisp of vapour.
He's not celebrating the vape enough.
Celebrate the vape, Marco. Blow a cloud. Look at that.
Oh, you couldn't do that on a green screen.
No.
No, I couldn't because I disappeared. My arm, a bit like Marty McFly, my arm disappears.
Absolutely right. Right, as per usual, I'm kind of reminded of VT Talk, ASAV. Have we got anything we need to sign off with from chat?
No, they've been incredibly well behaved. They've been, I would say, chat tonight definitely get 10 out of 10, and you get about 9 because you've covered everything, but you lose a point because you're drunk.
I'm not drunk, I'm tiddly. There's a difference. And I'm giving chat the point I missed. I'm giving them 11 out of 10 because I've been sitting watching it, and all they've talked about tonight was what was on the show. There's been no innuendo, no daftness. I'm so proud of everybody. I really am. And all right, I am. I'm pissed. Fine.
Yeah.
No one even said flange.
No.
Nobody said flange.
No.
Yeah.
I think we should all say it together. We should all say it together. After 3, 1, 2, 3. Flange. We like flange. We love flange. Flange is marvellous. Right, that's it.
Let's get out of there.
Yeah, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for the last bloody hello 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
It's a record. We've set a record tonight, kids. This is amazing. Thank you for joining us for the last 2.5 hours. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I hope it's been useful for you. And I hope you continue to celebrate the vape until we see you next time from all of us here. Vape on. Vape hard. And don't let the bastards grind you down. Celebrate the vape. See you next time. Take care from everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I've pressed the button and nothing happened. I'll press it again.
Press it again, Dave.
I've pressed it again. I didn't, yeah, I'll just click it.